Hey film fans, welcome to Cine Pro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters, 200 years after Ripley's death while fighting the aliens, scientists aboard the spaceship Auriga work on a secret U.S. military project to clone her. They collected some blood from the place where she died, and it took them 8 attempts to create a viable body. Once she was ready, they performed surgery to access her womb because an alien had impregnated her before she died. Doctors Wren and Getterman were thrilled when they discovered that the cloned alien was successfully extracted and placed in a capsule for further study. At that moment, Ripley woke up and grabbed a doctor's hand, slamming his face against the glass. But the others immediately sedated her. 3 days later, Ripley woke up again in what seemed like a cocoon and found the number 8 etched on her arm. The doctors conducted a routine checkup and were surprised by her excellent health. The surgical wound began to heal and became very small. When Wren got too close to provoke her, Ripley grabbed him with her legs, demonstrating immense strength. They tried to strangle her, but a guard quickly sedated her again. Later, Ripley underwent various tests related to language and education, showing rapid development, which amazed the doctors. They concluded that her superior body was the result of her DNA merging with the aliens. When they showed her images of the child, Ripley cried, remembering her deceased daughter and the child she lost during the mission. This angered General Perez, as the military wanted emotionless clones incapable of thinking. But it seemed Ripley still retained memories. Perez argued with the doctors, stating he wouldn't hesitate to kill Ripley if she acted out. He then turned his attention to their second experiment, revealing that the alien extracted from Ripley was a queen, growing rapidly and soon to lay eggs. During a meal, Getterman and Wren explained to Ripley how they obtained her blood to clone her, confirming they had captured an alien. Ripley deduced they had a queen and warned them they would all die, but they didn't take her seriously. Wren even insulted her. Sometime later, a spaceship called Betty arrived at the military station. Its crew consisted of mercenaries. Johnner, who liked to play with knives, threw one at Engineer Ferris, who was paralyzed from the waist down. Call disapproved of this kind of humor. The station guards ensured the crew wasn't armed, and the mercenary leader, Elgin, announced they had brought the cargo. It turned out they were hired by Perez to abduct civilians for alien experiments. After receiving their payment, Elgin requested rooms for his crew to rest for a few days. Perez agreed as long as the mercenaries stayed away from the labs. The unconscious civilians were transferred to the labs, where the doctors placed alien eggs in front of them for impregnation. Meanwhile, Ripley played basketball alone to test her new abilities, proving her strength, speed, and quick reflexes. The mercenaries found her, and Johnner tried to play with her, but Ripley moved swiftly, not letting him touch the ball. When Johnner got too close and tried to flirt with her offensively, Ripley took him down with just 2 moves. Another mercenary threw the ball at her, and when Ripley turned to catch it, Christie hit her with some weights. Ripley's nose bled, but she didn't care, and quickly took Christie down as well. At that moment, the doctors arrived to take her away. Ripley threw the ball skillfully, wiping her nose before leaving. The blood fell to the ground, melting the metal, proving that Ripley's blood had become acidic like the aliens. Later, Getterman inspected the alien experiments. One of them growled at him through the glass. Getterman made faces and kissed the window, but when the alien growled again, he released some freezing gas to calm it. Now the alien backed away every time he threatened to press the button. Meanwhile, Call pretended to be drunk so her crew would kick her out of the room. She sneaked around the facility, using a special spray on a lock to access Ripley's containment unit. She examined her closely, and upon seeing the scar, deduced the alien had been removed. When Ripley woke up, Call offered to kill her, but Ripley wasn't afraid and made a bold move. Call was forced to watch as her weapon pierced Ripley's hand, and her acidic blood melted the weapon. When she retrieved the knife, the wound closed quickly. Ripley then made Call touch her face, saying she could sense the aliens. Call wanted Ripley's help to kill the aliens, but Ripley said it was too late. As she left, Call was intercepted by Wren's guards. Later, the mercenaries confronted Wren, who accused them of breaking the only rule and threatened them with execution. The mercenaries immediately opened fire, engaging in a gunfight with the guards. The crew worked together to defeat the soldiers with ease. Elgin then demanded to know Call's true intentions, and she admitted to being a secret agent sent to stop the illegal experiments. Meanwhile, in the lab, Getterman was distracted while observing the aliens. 2 of the aliens ganged up on a third, killing it. Its acidic blood melted the floor. Ripley sensed all of this from her containment unit. Getterman tried to release the gas, but it was too late. The aliens escaped through the hole in the floor. When Getterman went to take a good look, an alien claw arrived and kidnapped him. When the alarm started to ring in the ship, a guard entered the cell to check the hole, but an alien pressed the button and killed him with freezing gas. Betty's crew left the fight to run while the soldiers ran to the capsules to escape, the first one to escape safely, but an alien managed to enter the second one and started killing the soldiers before the hatch closed. Perez threw a bomb inside the capsule, which exploded as soon as it flew while he was distracted. An alien appeared behind him and killed him. Ferris was in another room looking for spare parts when he saw an alien above him. He shot him, which caused some acidic blood to run down. His leg wasn't hurting him, but his hand was hurting him, so he started shooting frantically. The second alien was trying to reach Ripley, who used her superpowers to open the control panel and used her blood to create a lock in the electrical circuit and open the door to escape. Finally, the mercenaries were on their way to a mission, but the genie separated from the group when he saw Ferris's weapon on the ground. Suddenly something startled him, but it was some tubes falling. As soon as he got close to the weapons that fell, an alien reached through the mesh and killed him. The crew heard screams and panic because of him, but he passed. It was time for the alien to appear behind them, so they tried to escape, but they found the door locked. When the alien turned its attention to Elgin's corpse, it was suddenly shot by someone from a vent. It was Ripley, who had been hiding. The mercenaries were furious and threatened Ren until he admitted there were 12 aliens on the station. The group agreed to team up with Ripley despite Call's objections. Before they left, Ripley took the alien's tongue as a keepsake for Call. As the group moved forward, they regrouped with Ferris. Ripley then announced she could sense that the station was moving. Ren confirmed that the autopilot activates during emergencies. The station was heading back to Earth, which no one was happy about. The planet was now a wasteland, so they needed to find Betty. The group kept moving, but Ripley stopped when she found another lab. Inside, she was horrified to discover failed clones that had turned into grotesque creatures. Numbers 1 through 6 were dead, preserved in cryogenic tubes, but number 7 was still alive, lying on a table connected to tubes and breathing equipment. Number 7 begged for mercy, so Ripley used a flamethrower to kill her and destroy the entire lab. She also burned the other clones. Angry, she punched Ren in the face. In a second room of the group, they found the victims, the mercenaries brought in for experiments. At first I thought they were all dead, but a man named Purvis suddenly started screaming. Heidi saw that they wouldn't hurt him, but when Ripley smelled him, she confirmed that an alien was inside him and didn't want to take him with them. Call refused to leave him and said that if they managed to escape quickly enough, they could put Purvis in deep freeze to perform surgery later. The team continued their path toward Betty and took Purvis with them. The next area they needed to cross was the dining room, which was flooded with water due to emergency sprinklers. There was no option for Ferris but to leave his wheelchair and tie himself to Christie's back. Unfortunately, the paths ahead were even more flooded, forcing the group to swim through. 2 aliens appeared behind them. Johnner immediately shot one, but the other kept coming and managed to grab a mercenary and drag her away. While the alien was preoccupied with killing, the group continued swimming and found the area covered in a disgusting membrane. Ripley broke through it, and everyone surfaced to breathe again, but a nasty surprise awaited them. They were surrounded by alien eggs. A creature jumped out of an egg and latched onto Ripley's face, so she dove underwater to fight it off until her strength killed it. The rest of the group also dove underwater and detonated some bombs through the opening to destroy all the eggs. At that moment, the alien that had appeared earlier re-emerged in the water, so the group moved through the opening and began climbing a ladder. The door above wouldn't open, and Ren took a gun, claiming he would shoot the lock, but instead he shot Call. Call fell into the water, and a furious Ferris tried to shoot Ren, who dodged, causing the shots to check but finds no one. Elliot puts on his goggles and dives back in to collect the coins. Suddenly, he sees the shadow of someone above the water. He surfaces quickly, but no one is there. Assuming it's his sister Izzy playing a prank, he dives back in. While hiding under the pool's diving board, he sees something moving on it. He gets out quickly but finds no one again. Then he hears a girl's voice calling for help, asking for her mother and her toy. Suddenly, a terrifying hand emerges from that opening and grabs Elliot, but Elliot manages to pull away and escapes quickly. Elliot goes to Ava and tells her about the girl. Ava rushes out and asks if anyone is there, but she finds nothing. Ava enters and informs Waller about the situation, but Waller assures her that their son is just imagining things. He explains that not long ago, Elliot was talking to himself as if he were speaking to imaginary friends. Ava is convinced, and they decide to invite the neighbors over to get to know each other. Later, the whole family goes to Elliot's baseball practice to support him, with Waller giving advice to the players during practice. When it's Elliot's turn to hit the ball with the bat, he musters up his courage and steps onto the field. However, when the coach throws the ball, Elliot struggles to hit it as hard as his friends. The coach then suggests that Waller give it a try. Waller agrees, takes the bat, but when the coach throws the ball, Waller fails to hit it and falls to the ground due to his illness. Waller keeps trying, and on the third attempt, he recalls how relaxed he felt swimming in the pool. This memory gives him the strength to hit the ball powerfully, sending it out of the field. The family returns home, and Waller swims in the pool while Eva watches him with concern. Later that night, Eva and Waller go out for dinner, leaving the kids at home. Izzy decides to invite her friend Ronan over to the pool, and they play together. Ronan suggests they play hide-and-seek, where Izzy has to catch him with her eyes closed. Ronan leaves the pool without Izzy realizing it. As Izzy tries to find him, unaware he's gone, a terrifying man suddenly appears behind her. When Izzy turns around, she sees no one. Suddenly, the man pulls Izzy underwater, but she manages to escape and surfaces quickly. She gets out of the pool, and when Ronan asks what happened, she tells him someone tried to pull her underwater and she almost drowned. Elliot warns his sister that their parents are back, prompting Ronan to flee the house before the parents see him. 2 days later, the party they had planned with the neighbors takes place. Elliot knocks on his sister's door and asks if she saw anything in the pool. She denies it and tells him not to mention anything to their parents. Elliot returns to his room and sets up a camera facing the pool, determined to monitor it and intervene if anything happens. The neighbors arrive, and everyone enjoys themselves. The real estate agent chats with Eva in the kitchen and reveals that 30 years ago, a girl named Rebecca lived in the house with her family. The girl drowned in the pool, and no one could save her or even find her body. This revelation shocks Eva, who starts connecting the dots but dismisses it as her son's imagination. Meanwhile, Waller is approached by a boy, a friend of his son, who asks him to sign a baseball. Waller agrees and invites the boy to play a pool game against another man and his son. The game involves the kids sitting on the adults' shoulders, trying to knock each other into the water. Waller's team wins, but Waller suddenly becomes unresponsive underwater. Black sludge begins to emerge from the pool's drain and enters Waller's mouth. Waller grabs the boy's leg, pulling him underwater. The boy struggles to surface, signaling for help, but everyone thinks he's just playing. Elliot notices the boy is drowning and rushes to alert his mother. The boy's father sees his son drowning and rescues him. Waller is pulled out of the pool unconscious. The boy's leg bears severe bruises from Waller's grip. The police arrive after the party, but the boy's father decides not to press charges, attributing Waller's behavior to his illness. However, he insists that Waller be banned from attending adult baseball games in the city. After this ordeal, Eva decides to move her family out of the house. As they pack and prepare to leave, Waller becomes severely ill, coughing and growing weaker. They are forced to return to the house, where Waller collapses onto the bed and asks Eva to take him to the pool. She refuses, saying it's not safe. Waller laughs strangely and comments on how cold the pool water is. Eva starts draining the pool and then goes to work, researching the previous owners of the house. She learns more about Rebecca and discovers that most of the house's former residents died in the pool. Eva tracks down Rebecca's family and visits them. Rebecca's mother, Hawa, welcomes her into the house and shows her a picture of her son, who now holds a high-ranking position in Washington. Eva asks Hawa about Rebecca, but Hawa denies knowing her or that she's her daughter. Eva assures her she's not there to cause trouble and expresses her fear for her husband and children because of the pool. Suddenly, black sludge begins to seep from Hawa's eyes and mouth. Hawa reveals the truth about the spring beneath the pool, explaining that it grants any wish but takes the life of a family member in return. She admits to sacrificing Rebecca to cure her son. Eva asks how to break the spring's curse, but before Hawa can answer, more black sludge pours from her eyes and mouth. Hawa warns that the curse will soon destroy them all and laughs maniacally. Terrified, Eva flees and tries to call her husband to warn him, but Waller is already in the shower, with the black sludge pouring from the water and overtaking him. Meanwhile, Elliot, in the kitchen, notices the water behaving strangely. He leaves his glass and steps outside to the garden. Elliot went to the swimming pool area, expecting to find his cat because he heard its sound. He walked to the diving platform in the swimming pool, thinking his cat was there. But suddenly, a terrifying creature pulled Elliot underwater. Something frightening began to close the pool cover on Elliot. At that moment, Izzy saw everything happening and tried to stop the pool cover before it closed. Eva arrived home and helped her daughter, telling her to run and call her father. Eva jumped into the swimming pool to save her son, while the daughter ran to call her father. Eva kept searching for her son in the swimming pool, which had become incredibly deep. She used a water hose to get air from above so she could breathe. Eventually, she found her unconscious son. The spirits of those who had been trapped by the pool started to attack them. The spirits were about to overpower them, making it impossible for them to escape. Suddenly, Rebecca's spirit appeared, seemingly wanting to help them. Rebecca revealed a coin that Elliot had placed in his toy, showing the exit. Eva quickly escaped with her son. Meanwhile, Izzy was injured by broken glass. Suddenly, her father appeared behind her, transformed and controlled by the black substance. He violently attacked his daughter, preventing her from reaching her phone to call for help. The daughter ran and hid from her father, taking her father's baseball bat to defend herself. Walter went to the garden and found his wife Ava trying to save Elliot. Walter grabbed Ava and strangled her. Before he could finish her off, Izzy appeared and struck him repeatedly with the baseball bat. Walter fell to the ground, and the black substance controlling him spilled out of his mouth. He began to regain his memories of his family and wife. Walter, now conscious, checked on Elliot, who had come out of his coma but was severely weak. They all decided to quickly leave the house. However, the swimming pool filled entirely with the black substance. Walter realized the pool needed one of them as a sacrifice. He decided to sacrifice himself to save his family. Walter entered the pool, telling his wife and children to escape. As Walter submerged into the water, Elliot started to recover completely, and all his symptoms disappeared. The black substance left Walter's body, leaving only water in the pool. In the end, the family decided to leave the house. But before leaving, they filled the swimming pool with sand to ensure no one else would get hurt. And with that, we reach the end of the film.
И зрение. Он обнаруживает, что Оуса также упал. Eito decides to keep crossing the bridge slowly and carefully. It begins to rain, and the second contestant reaches the other tower and opens the door. However, the air pressure causes strong winds to blow him off the building, and he falls to his death. Eito manages to reach the other side at the last moment and enters the room, where Tanjawa stands waiting. Tanjawa congratulates him on his success. The king is also present and asks Eito what he wants. Eito demands his 12 million yen. Tanjawa informs him that 9.5 million yen has been deducted, and the 10 million yen from his friend cannot be claimed because his friend is dead. Eito becomes furious and declares that he doesn't want the money for himself, but for Usa's daughter, who deserves a better life. The king admires Eito's determination and honor and invites him to his suite. There, the king offers Eito a final game against Tanjawa, called the Emperor Game. If Eito loses, he will return to the site. If he wins, he will get the money he desires. The game consists of 5 cards for the Emperor and 5 for the prisoner. Each set contains 1 Emperor or prisoner card, with the rest being ordinary citizen cards. In each round, the cards are played against each other. A citizen beats a prisoner beats an emperor, and a tie occurs if 2 citizens face each other. The game is played over 3 rounds. Eito loses the first 2 rounds and is puzzled by how Tanjawa can predict his moves so easily. The guards prepare to take Eito back to the site, but Eito notices that Tanjawa had changed the clock during their game, indicating some form of cheating. He requests to go to the bathroom, where he thinks deeply. He asks Endo to lend him money for one last chance to play against Tanjawa. Endo agrees, trusting in Eito's ability to win. Eito approaches the king and requests one final round. The king agrees, and Eito goes to a nearby mirror, banging his head against it until it breaks and injures him. He then returns to the game table and quickly arranges his cards before Tanjawa can see them. Tanjawa uses a watch that monitors Eito's vital signs through a chip implanted in his shoulder. This allows Tanjawa to predict Eito's moves based on his stress levels. However, the adrenaline rush from Eito's self-inflicted pain disrupts the watch's readings, rendering it useless. The game begins, and Eito manipulates Tanjawa's thought process. With 2 cards left each, Tanjawa confidently plays the Emperor card, expecting to face a citizen and win. Instead, Eito plays the prisoner card, defeating the Emperor and winning the game. Eito takes the 500 million yen prize and orders the king to send Tanjawa to the construction site, as agreed. With his winnings, Eito goes to a restaurant with Endo, where he eats and drinks freely for the first time in a long while. After finishing his meal, he collapses, and Endo is the one who gave him the sedative so he could sleep and took all his money. When he wakes up, he finds a letter in his pocket from Endo, telling him that she had lent him a lot of money before so he could play another round. The money she took is her right, plus its interest. She leaves him a small amount of money to spend from. He sends all of it to his friend's daughter, as he promised. Finally, he is freed from the prison he was in and from the debts he owed. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time. Suddenly, they notice water leaking from the amusement equipment, which isn't supposed to happen because the water shouldn't leak. Tom quickly rushes to warn them, telling them to stop the race because someone might get hurt. But no one believes him, and they refuse to halt the race. All the participants head to the starting point. Meanwhile, Paul and Priscilla are waiting for them. Paul explains that in every game, there must be a team of 3 members, and the fastest swimming team will win $500. The competition is named the Sea Serpent because the 3 members must descend together, holding on to each other. Now we see the teams preparing for the starting moment. Tom comes again to warn them about the game's flaws, urging them not to risk their lives as they might die. He asks them to stop the race immediately. Tom goes to Kim to convince her, but George stops him. Tom tells them that next week marks the 35th anniversary of the crimes that occurred in this amusement park. Because Tivoli Amusement Park has witnessed numerous crimes over the years, these crimes have spanned 35 years. He suggests that the saboteur might be the killer, but Priscilla doesn't care about his words and blows the whistle to start the race. Now we see Kim and George as one team. Due to the length of the water park, another team must follow each team, but Verrill pushes and crashes into one of the slides. We see him scared because he is about to die. Then we see Alice and her friends, but she encounters the blades. She slides onto the blades, gets cut, and dies. As for Kim and her team, they are the first to reach the swimming pool. The others wait for the remaining teams, feeling happy. Suddenly, they notice blood coming from one of the slides, along with half a corpse. They are filled with terror and fear. When George tries to enter to see what happened, the strong water flow prevents him. He sees the blood, enters, and slips, falling and dropping his wireless device used to communicate with Priscilla. Priscilla calls out to him, asking him to send the next team, but no one responds. Now we see him looking at Alice's dead friends in front of him. Fortunately, he survives because he didn't reach the blades. Then we see a new team descending. The witnesses contact the police to report what happened, claiming that the murders have returned to Tivoli Amusement Park. Con manages to reach his wireless device and orders Priscilla to stop the competition and close the amusement park. However, the wireless device falls from his hand and malfunctions. Priscilla, seeing the incomplete team, decides to join the 2-person team, while Paul joins another team. We then see George preventing anyone from descending. Quickly, he exits the amusement park and heads to the opening before the competitors reach the blades. He grabs Paul and explains what happened, but the 2 girls who descended after Tom collide with him, and his head gets cut off. George fails to save Paul due to the strong water flow. At that moment, George climbs to the top of the water park to warn the students and explain what happened. Suddenly, the Tivoli swimming park turns into a pool of blood and corpses. After a long period following the incident, we see George, Kim, and Priscilla with a lawyer. At this moment, we learn that George inherited the entire amusement park and its money because he is the sole heir. Priscilla received only $20 million because she was Michael's lover. After Priscilla takes her check, we discover that she was behind everything that happened. She wanted revenge on Paul because he intended to sell the park. Before killing Michael, she forced him to write her a large sum of money. We learn that when she was young, she was with her father at Tivoli Amusement Park. Her father was struck on the head and died, and no one helped him because everyone was busy. She decided to take revenge on anyone who visited Tivoli over the years. In this way, she avenged her father and everyone who didn't help him. This marks the end of the movie. If you enjoyed the video, Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next.
Hey film fans! Welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters, the movie begins with a woman giving birth, surrounded by a group of witches trying to help her. They create a barrier around her to protect her from any harm. The woman senses that she is dying, and she calls out for her husband Drake, who is a sorcerer. She pleads for him to come, but by the time Drake arrives, she has already given birth and passed away. Overcome with rage, Drake nearly destroys the entire city and burns everything in his path, but the witches manage to protect the house. When he demands that the witches search for his son, they refuse, telling him that the child will stay with them until he grows up and can make his own decisions. At that point, the child is named Dampier. Years pass, and in the Balkan region in the year 1992, we see a group of soldiers heading to an isolated village after receiving reports of a horrific massacre there. Their mission is to investigate what happened. The leader of the military squad, a man named Jack, arrives with his team to find a terrifying scene, with corpses scattered everywhere. Strangely, there is no blood on the bodies. They enter an old church and discover even more bodies piled up, all of them soldiers. It seems as though whatever killed them was monstrous, to the point that one of the soldiers, Stephen, shoots in fear. Jack reprimands him for firing without orders and instructs the rest of the soldiers to gather the bodies and clean up the area. Meanwhile, we are introduced to Harlan, known in the country as Dampier, who wakes up from a recurring nightmare. His assistant, Yuri, asks him if he had the same dream again. Yuri then informs him about their next mission in a village called Janira. Harlan and Yuri are scammers who deceive people into believing they exorcise spirits and vampires from haunted villages. As soon as they arrive in the village, Yuri warns the locals about the presence of a demonic entity and introduces Harlan as the man who will rid them of the spirits they complain about. They then head to the cemetery, where Harlan performs a dramatic exorcism, pretending to banish the evil spirits. Afterward, he declares the village free of evil, and the people celebrate, giving them gifts and gratitude. At the same time, Jack is trying to contact his superiors, but there's no response. He orders his soldiers to stay alert and not sleep through the night. That night, two soldiers, Yanko and Beta, are sitting by the fire sharing their worries when they suddenly hear someone crying for help. Yanko dismisses it as an illusion, possibly the sound of an animal, but the cries persist until a girl appears out of the darkness, crying and asking for help. Beta decides to approach her despite Yanko's warnings, only to discover that she is no ordinary girl. She is a vampire. She attacks them suddenly, and Jack hears their screams, ordering the rest of the soldiers to assist them immediately. Realizing the sound is coming from Beta and Yanko's location, Jack divides the soldiers into groups to search for them. One group hears strange noises, and Tito decides to enter an abandoned building to investigate. Suddenly, a vampire attacks and bites him. His comrades rush to help him, only to find themselves overwhelmed as the number of vampires increases, leading to a dangerous battle. They retreat quickly, firing their weapons to fend off the vampires. Eventually, the vampires withdraw, but the remaining soldiers return, severely injured. Jack interrogates them about what happened, and one dying soldier reveals that bullets had no effect on the attackers, proving they were not human. One of the soldiers, Hazar, recalls the words of an old man who had warned them about demons. He becomes agitated, but Jack calms him down. Hazar then insists that they must find someone capable of defeating the vampires, referring to Dampier. The next day, Harlan argues with Yuri over their scam, particularly about Yuri forcing him to decapitate a dead woman in the cemetery as part of their act. Harlan reluctantly agrees and heads to the cemetery, where he sees one of the witches who raised him but ignores her and continues on his way. Soon after, a group of soldiers apprehends Harlan, accusing him of being a fraud, and take him away. Harlan and Yuri learn that these soldiers are under the command of Jack, who wants to speak with them. The soldiers refuse to answer any of Harlan's questions and remain silent. Upon arrival, Harlan is brought to Jack, who begins discussing the ongoing war and their battle against unnatural creatures. Jack questions Harlan about his work, calling him a renowned vampire hunter. Jack then asks if Harlan truly knows how to kill vampires. Harlan admits that he is a fraud and that vampires don't exist, claiming that people are deceiving themselves. This angers Jack, who beats him and forces him to face the pile of dead bodies, challenging him to see for himself whether vampires are real. He hands Harlan a gun and tells him to uncover the truth about vampires. At this moment, Hazar tells Jack that he once lived in the same village as Harlan, where Harlan was known as the son of the devil. Hazar explains that Harlan hasn't aged or changed since he first saw him. Harlan then wanders through the village and, at night, enters an abandoned church previously explored by the soldiers. Inside, he encounters the same vampire girl who attacked and killed the soldiers. She pleads for his help and approaches him fearfully, but when she tries to embrace him, she pushed him away when she knew that he is not an ordinary human being, and she was afraid of him at that moment and said to him, "Who are you?" He ran out of the church, terrified. Suddenly, there was a larger group of vampires in front of him, and he did not find a solution except to shoot them with the gun he had. At that moment, the sound reached Yuri, his friend, who tried to go and help him, but Jack stopped him. When Harlan ran out of bullets, suddenly one of the vampires attacked him. At that moment, he tried to repel the attack, and when he touched the vampire's hand, it was burned. At that moment, the girl came out and told them that this is not a human, and one of them came and hit him, and his hand was also burned, and anyone who touched him got burned. The soldiers started hearing their voices, and suddenly the vampires attacked them from the windows and attacked the soldiers. Jack tried to shoot them, but of course, it did not wipe them out or have any effect. One of the vampires came to grab Harlan by the neck and found himself burning. At that moment, Harlan put his hand on his neck. The fire caught him, and the rest of the vampires were very scared. They knew that Harlan was demonic, as they say, and decided to withdraw quickly, and they were the ones who were afraid of him. The vampire lord, Gorka, orders the girl to stay while the others retreat. The next day, the soldiers search the streets for any trace of the vampires. When Yuri learns that Harlan is alive, he runs to embrace him out of fear for his safety. Meanwhile, Jack visits the church where the remaining vampire girl is hiding. The soldiers want to leave the area, knowing they won't survive the mission. Jack questions Harlan about what happened and orders the soldiers to search the buildings, instructing them to return to the same location. Izrini instructing them to return to the same location. During this time, Stephen points his weapon at Jack, accusing him of sacrificing them as bait for the vampires. A fight breaks out among the soldiers, with some turning against each other. Harlan urges Yuri to leave with the soldiers, warning him that staying would put him in danger. However, Yuri refuses to leave Harlan behind. Harlan insists, telling the soldiers to take Yuri by force and ensure his safety. "I have a mission and I haven't finished it yet. Only Jack and Harleen are left." The soldiers told Jack to come back with them because of his son. He told them that he is not a coward and won't run away. The soldiers left and locked the church door behind them with the girl. Harleen said to Jack, "So we're sitting here and you don't have a plan?" At that moment, the girl said to them, "Surely he did this to you and didn't let anyone recognize you in order to protect you. Because the lords of the night, when you are born, they kill you immediately, because you are a threat to them and their followers, just like you killed some of us for them. And now he knows who you are." He said, "And what does that mean?" She said, "It means that he is ready to do anything to kill you." We return to the soldiers, and they are walking and enter the road. They find fog covering the vision, and they cannot see anything. They stop the cars and get out. Suddenly, they find Jurika in front of them, and with a single whisper, he dies. 4, 5, and everyone was running away from him, and one of them stopped and shot him. After that, we went to Sela, and she felt Jorah, and also Vampire fell and was affected. He felt what was happening to the soldiers, and Hazar told Yuri to run away quickly. But at that time, Dampier told them, "Jurika took Yuri and took the soldiers, and I was wrong to let them go." Dampier told Sela, "My religion is with him." Jack told her, "I can't believe you'll help us." She told him, "I'll help you because no one can kill him except Dampier, and if he dies, I'll be free." And here, Jack told Harleen, "Don't believe this. She's also one of them, and she might attack us at the first opportunity." He told him, "Don't be afraid because she knows that I can kill her." She told them, "Let's go." They got into the car and drove off, but Sela was hiding herself completely from the sun, and Harleen was in the car, and his eyes fell asleep. He still had the same dreams, and Jack told him, "What's wrong?" He told him, "I always have nightmares." Harlan was wounded quickly, and Sela said to him, "You are like us." He said to her, "I trust you, but Jack is worried from you." We see the commander of the soldiers tied with a chain near the Night Lord, and he was holding a vampire, and the Night Lord said to him, "How do you feel when you are going to die now?" because I do not know the feeling of death, but I see it in it now. I have killed many kings and heroes to satisfy my bloodlust and turned him into a vampire like the one he has. We return to Jack, and he says to them, we are going to find the evil that people are running away from. And on our way, Selah said to them, at night you will find many followers. Jack said to him, what are you thinking about? He found that he brought many bullets and hurt his hand and drowned them in his blood. He then prepared for the vampires who will appear at night. Selah said to them, I also want a gun like you. But Jack does not believe her. She said to him, if I wanted to kill you, you would have been dead long ago. She choked him and said to him, I am fed up with you. Harleen told her to take it down, and Jack put the gun on her and said to her, come on, let's try your idea. She told him, hit me. I'm already suffering, and he wants you to serve me and kill me. After that, Harleen gave her the razor that hurt his hand and said to her, be careful because my blood on it. And they walked to the hideout Jorika. While they were walking, an explosion happened, and they said to her, you set up a trap for us. She told them, he knew that you were going to him and also sensed you. After that, she said, they are here. And indeed, a few people jumped in front of them, and most of them were soldiers after Jorika turned them, and they were shooting them. But they hid, and were shooting them with the bullets in his blood and burning them. And with that, Harleen's idea succeeded, and Hazar started hitting Jack with Stephen. Harleen fell and said to him, the Lord of the Night wants you. Harleen grabbed him and touched his face and burned him, and Jack was there. A soldier was going to kill him. He took out a gun and hit him and burned him, and we see Selah holding a gun and crying and saying to them, he is making me do this. And Harlan stood in front of her and said to her, don't obey him. She said to him, you don't know his power and control over us. At that moment, you tell him to kill me, and when he refused, she went and killed him. Jack was treating him, and we see that when Selah found a girl screaming because the vampire came out, she went to her and stabbed him with a razor and burned him. At that time, Jorika came to her and said to her, you grew up and rebelled against me, and you were able to do it. She couldn't stab him with the razor, but she told him, Dampier will kill you. He told her, no, I am the one who will kill him because I was supposed to kill him a long time ago. And Harlan got better and went to Jack. He found him filling bottles with the blood he had bled. Jack saw the wound and disappeared. After that, they went to Jorika. He grabbed Jack and hung him on one side and hung Selah on the other side. He sent Stefan to torture them and burned Selah with fire. He went to Jack and told him, I basically hate you because you are committed to the rules and honorable. And he dug his claws into his stomach, and a stream of water jumped and cut the chain and wrapped it around his neck and strangled him and hung him up. And Jack set him on fire and went to Selah, gave her an arm to bite, and we went to Dampier's blood while he was looking for Yuri and calling for Jorika. And when Jorika arrived, he said to him, I was waiting for you. And when he hit him with the bullets in his blood, he started to separate and get married, running to him. But Jorika stopped him with his strength and started hitting and bewitching him. And he said to him, I know who you are and who my son is, and we were supposed to die as you were born. I don't know why we left you all this time. He said to him, I expelled your father a long time ago, and I will kill you now because you are of his blood. He threw right and left, raising his strength and strangling him. After that, he threw him to the ground and said to him, Wait, don't die. There is someone who wants to say goodbye to you. Yuri came out, transformed, and said to Dampier, I knew you would come back for me, but you came late and jumped so he could bite him. Then Harlan didn't want to kill him, but Yuri saw Harlan's death and said to him, Sorry, my friend. I am carrying out the orders of the Night Lord, and I didn't want to hurt you. Please save me. And when Dampier grabbed him, he burned and died. Dampier ran to him but threw him on the ground. Then Jack and Selah came and threw them against the wall and locked them up and said to them, You will stay like this. At that time, the 3 witches who raised him appeared, and those who prevented his father from taking him and told him, The time of your choice has come. And his father was standing and saying to him, Come to me, and gave him a power from his power, which is the same power as Jorika's power. After that, his eye turned red, and he stood up, and whenever Jorika sent him a power from him, he repelled it, and it no longer affected him. Then he turned to his real form, and Dampier started fighting hard, and a big battle started between them, and Dampier jumped over him, choking him to death, and he said to him, You killed many people, and you must die. After that, they went down to Selah and Jack, and they all walked and went to a book in which there was a picture of his father flipping through it, and he knew that there are many like Jorika and like his father, and they pledged that they would become a team and eliminate the Lords of the Night anywhere. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Welcome to CinePro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. Our movie begins with Light, a brilliant high school student who sells homework and exam answers to other students and has a crush on his classmate Mia. While sitting in the schoolyard, a strong storm occurs, and a notebook falls from the sky labeled Death Note. He takes it with him and finds Mia arguing with Kenny, who was bullying another student. Light tries to defend her, but ends up getting beaten as well. He loses consciousness, and some of his papers fall out of his bag, which the school principal finds, discovering they are homework and exams for other students. This leads to Light being investigated and sentenced to 2 weeks of detention. While in detention, Light takes out the death note that fell on him and begins reading its rules. One of the conditions is that any human whose name is written in the notebook will die, and the writer must visualize the person's face while writing their name. As Light continues reading, he hears a strange noise behind him and moves toward the source, finding a mysterious figure in the dark. He tries to escape but drops an apple, which the figure picks up and eats as the world around Light seems to crumble. The figure begins to speak, telling Light that he can consider everything happening as a real dream under his control. Suddenly, Light hears a girl screaming from the window. He looks out and sees Kenny, who had beaten him earlier, bullying another girl. The mysterious figure suggests Light test the notebook by writing Kenny's name in it. The figure also explains that Light can specify the manner of death for the person whose name is written. Light writes Kenny's name and specifies that he will die by decapitation. The figure tells Light to watch Kenny to see if it happens. A woman carrying some items accidentally drops them, causing a basketball to roll into the street. A boy chases the ball and ends up in front of an oncoming car. The car swerves suddenly, and a metal basket it was carrying flies off, decapitating Kenny. The figure tells Light that he now possesses great power and can choose to use it or leave the notebook somewhere for someone else to find. The figure then vanishes. Later that day, Light returns home and talks to his father about a gangster named Anthony who killed his mother but escaped justice due to his influence. Light eats an apple and continues reading the Death Note, learning that each page of the notebook carries the same deadly power and that anyone can use it. However, only the keeper of the notebook can retain it after 7 days. Otherwise, it will disappear and choose a new keeper. Light also finds a note in the book warning not to trust Ryuk, the mysterious figure, as he is not a friend. Ryuk reappears, smiling, and Light asks him what he can do with the notebook. Ryuk explains that the notebook can control the final moments before a person's death, and that the maximum time to set a death is 2 days. The method of death must also be realistic. Ryuk reveals that the previous keeper of the notebook died, which is why Ryuk was searching for a new one and chose Light. If Light does not want the notebook, he can leave it, and it will find a new keeper after 7 days. Determined to avenge his mother's death, Light retrieves the investigation file on Anthony from his father and writes Anthony's name and manner of death in the notebook. Later, Anthony is at a restaurant with friends when a waitress trips, causing Anthony to accidentally stab himself in the neck with a knife he was holding. News of his death reaches Light's father, James, the next day, and Light is overjoyed. After James leaves the room, Ryuk appears, smiling, as he has found the perfect keeper for the notebook. At school, Mia approaches Light to talk about what happened to Kenny and notices the notebook. Light decides to tell her about it and gives her the notebook, hoping she will see Ryuk. However, Ryuk explains to Light that only the notebook's keeper can see him. To prove the notebook's power to Mia, Light opens a live police broadcast on his laptop, showing a criminal holding hostages in a store. Light writes the criminal's name and actions in the notebook, causing the criminal to walk out of the store, salute the police, and be killed by them. Mia reads the notebook and sees that the events match what happened in the news. Light and Mia decide to use the notebook to punish criminals who have evaded justice, believing themselves to be heroes delivering justice. Light begins using the notebook to kill anyone who abuses their power, orchestrating deaths in gruesome ways, such as electrocution that causes heads to explode. He decides the world needs to know about him, even if under a pseudonym, and adopts the name Kira, which means light in Russian and Dark Lord in Japanese. Kira's name spreads quickly worldwide, and his Actio, actions gain widespread attention. Victims are compelled to write Kira on walls before their deaths. Kira kills 6 death row inmates across different continents and causes chaos among criminal families in Tokyo, forcing them to kill each other. As Kira's influence grows, crime rates drop globally, and some criminals even surrender out of fear. However, Kira's actions also spark controversy, with some seeing him as a savior while others, like James, view him as a murderer who deserves to be brought to justice. James takes charge of the Kira investigation, believing Kira has no right to act as judge, jury, and executioner. James suspects Kira is connected to law enforcement and discovers that Kira's first victim was the criminal who held hostages in the store. Although the public believed the criminal's actions were drug-induced, toxicology reports showed no traces of drugs. A renowned detective named L is brought in to assist with the case. L appears in a live broadcast, his face obscured, and challenges Kira, claiming that Kira can only kill if he knows both the name and face of his target, the one who appeared on television, but his father does not provide him with the information he wants, returns the next day and decides to monitor all the families of the police officers among them to ensure their activities, thinking one of them might be Kira. He realizes he is being watched by the police and meets Mia, telling her he must reduce his use of the notebook so as not to arouse suspicion. However, Mia suggests obtaining the names and appearances of all the police officers responsible for the surveillance and killing them all as a warning and to send a message as punishment for those trying to find Kira. But Light refuses Mia's idea because he doesn't kill. Another day comes, and 21 police agents head to the rooftop of a building and commit suicide by jumping off it. Light does not understand how they died since he did not write their names in the notebook. He realizes that Ryuk is the reason. As he started killing on his own, Light threatens Ryuk that if he continues killing on his own, he will write his name in the notebook. However, Ryuk is indifferent to Light's words and tells him that those who tried to confront him wrote 2 letters before they died. James appears on television, introduces himself, and threatens Kira, saying they will keep searching for him until they find him. He adds that even if Kira kills him, another investigator will continue the investigation, as Kira does not deserve all the reverence he has been receiving. Light and Mia are watching the news, and Mia tells him they must kill his father who might expose them. But Light completely objects, arguing with Mia over the idea of killing his father. After night falls, and L confirms that James is still alive, he deduces that Kira is Light, James's son, which is why he didn't kill his father. L goes to meet Light at his location and asks him whether deciding to spare his father's life was difficult, as he is sure Light is Kira. He says he is waiting for evidence to arrest him and make him pay for killing 400 people worldwide. He tells Light he has started a game he won't be able to finish. Light listens silently until he tells L he won't continue playing the game with him, and then they will see who wins in the end. Light goes home and finds Mia there, apologizing for suggesting killing his father and explaining she was afraid of losing him if they were exposed. He forgives her and tells her he has decided to kill L as soon as he learns his name, as he has seen his face. He plans to use Watari, L's assistant, to discover his real name. Light opens the notebook and writes that Watari will reveal L's real name, call him with the name, and then die on October 12th at 7 p.m. Mia asks if he really intends to kill L's assistant to learn his real name, but Light tells her that one of the notebook's rules is that if the page containing the name is burned, the person will not die. However, Ryuk warns him, saying he only has one chance to burn a page. Light receives a call from Watari, who tells him he does not know L's real name, even though he was responsible for raising him after taking him from St. Martin's Orphanage, which trains children to become the world's smartest detectives. Watari says they always called him L. Light orders Watari to travel to the orphanage, find L's name, and return to him before October 12th at 7 p.m. The next day, Watari travels without informing anyone, and L begins searching for him, suspecting Light killed him or is behind his disappearance. L goes to Light's house in front of his father, threatening that if anything happens to Watari, he will kill Light without mercy. L tries to attack Light, but James stops him. James's entire house is searched, but they do not find the death note in his room. The next day, Light calls Watari to ask where he has reached, and Watari says he is close to finding the name and will call as soon as he does. Light goes to school, talks to Mia, and tells her he cannot find the notebook. She hands him a paper, revealing she took it from his house. That night, there is a party at school, and Light decides to escape surveillance during the party to open a safe and retrieve the notebook. Meanwhile, Watari reaches the orphanage where Elle was raised and starts searching for any document revealing Elle's real name. Before 7 p.m., Light decides to retrieve the page with Watari's name and burn it to save him, but he cannot find the page. He calls Watari, telling him to escape the location, but before Watari can flee, security personnel shoot and kill him. Light fails to save him and realizes Mia tore the page from the notebook. He confronts her, asking why she killed him. She explains she saved him just as she had saved him earlier from the surveillance. She confesses to killing the 12 investigators by stalking the agent monitoring Light, electrocuting him, taking his wallet to learn his name, and forcing him to write the names of his colleagues and police chief in the notebook, making them all commit suicide. She tells Light he can withdraw if he is afraid to use the notebook again, threatening that if he does not give it to her, he will die at midnight as she wrote in the notebook. She promises to burn his page after becoming the notebook's keeper. Elle receives a call about Watari's death at the orphanage and decides to kill Light to end him. Light rushes to the notebook's location and finds Elle's words to be true. James orders his team to protect his son from Elle. All agents work to protect Light. Light takes the notebook, opens a wanted list, writes several names, and escapes from school. He sends Mia his location. Elle spots him on the street, chases him, and captures him, threatening to kill him. Light tells Elle the secret lies in the calculus book. A man from a nearby shop approaches, claiming to be Kira's supporter, strikes Elle on the head, and knocks him unconscious. Light reaches the location he sent to Mia, asking her to meet him there. He tries to stay away from people and the police, heading to a Ferris wheel. He asks Mia to run away with him and never use the notebook again. He begs her to let go of the notebook and not take it. However, she snatches it from his hand, triggering the consequences he had written in the notebook, stating she would die if she took it from him. He hoped to convince her to give it up. Suddenly, the place begins to collapse. Light tries to save her from death, but Mia falls with the notebook beside her. Light also falls after her. Mia dies, and Light falls into the sea. His page burns, and he falls into a coma. The investigation continues with Elle, as the crimes did not stop while Light was in a coma, leading to the incorrect conclusion that Light is not Kira, and he gets excluded from the investigation. Then someone appears and places the notebook next to Light while he is in the hospital. He wakes up from the coma and hides it under the pillow. His father comes to him and tells him that he never expected his son to be Kira. He confirms this because he can't find any news about Anthony's release in the newspaper. Light tells him that everything that happened was planned by him. He explains that before escaping from school, he accessed the site containing the criminals. He wrote in the notebook that the accused doctor would be present at the moment of his fall into the water, and he would save him from drowning. Using his expertise, he would put him into a temporary coma so he would stay in the hospital. Then, another man accused of harassing children would search for the notebook until he finds it. That man would sit in front of the news, writing the names of criminals in the notebook to kill them. After 2 days, the notebook would return to the hospital. Misa would die if she agreed to take the notebook from her lover. She would fall from her position, tear the page with her lover's name, burn it, and die. At the same time, someone recalls that Light told him the secret lies in the calculus book, but he knows that Light doesn't study that subject, and it's his girlfriend who does. So he goes to her house, searches it, and finds the page with the names of the 12 police investigators that Misa stole from the notebook without Light knowing. He realizes that this page is from the notebook and that anyone whose name is written on it will die. He decides to write Light's name on it. Ryuk appears with Light in the hospital and tells him that humans are always interesting. From this, we assume that Light will die because his name was written in the death note. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video.
Hey there, Cinemaster fans! Hope you're ready for some movie magic. Let's dive right in. The story begins with a group of reckless young people riding their motorcycles and entering a large forest filled with darkness and silence, like the heart of gloom itself. The road is dark, but suddenly, an old truck that looks like it's straight out of a horror movie. Guys, this looks like a movie truck, not a regular one, Luke said as he saw the truck in front of him. But instead of passing by and hoping no one noticed him, he decided to throw a rock at the windshield. The rock flew like a missile and bounced back on his head. "Stop joking around and let's see what's going on," said Kirk, who decided to be the hero of today's movie, and opened the truck's back door. The door opened with a scream of horror. A white bag wrapped around something unnatural looking. Kirk leaned closer to smell, and the smell was unbearable. Before he could get himself into more trouble, the door slammed shut with a thunderous sound. All the young people started to panic and said, "Let's get out of here." They jumped on their motorcycles, all speeding. But the truck didn't wait. The truck began to unleash some surprises, like a flying rope trailing behind it with a long knife at the end. The knife went straight for Kirk's leg, turning him into a deer caught in a trap. His friends jumped on him like men and said, "We won't leave you." They dragged him into the forest, but the truck wasn't going to let them go. The young men stood in the forest, unsure of what was happening. Kirk was clutching his leg. "Guys, do something!" Kirk screamed as he looked at his friends, who started trying to pull the knife out of his leg. Luke said, "All right, calm down. I'll try to remove it. Hang in there." He pulled, but the knife refused to budge an inch. The problem is, the rope attached to the knife started moving on its own, pulling Kirk behind it like a fish caught on a hook. Kirk screamed, "Guys, I don't want to die." Luke looked at his other friend and said, "Why are you standing there? Grab him quickly before he gets dragged." The rope was stronger than all of them combined, dragging Kirk across the ground. Luke tried to hold his friend, but the pull was too much. And then, suddenly, the guy on the red motorcycle decided to bail. Their friend on the red bike acted like in the movies and sped away safely. Kirk got stuck next to the truck, tears in his eyes as if he knew it was the end. His friend who had just passed by told him, "We'll look for someone to help us. Wait here and don't move." But suddenly, Luke looked up at the sky and he saw a human descending like a rocket from above. The body smashed onto the ground next to them. Luke's face turned pale and said, "What's going on, guys?" The truck, which had been silent until that moment, suddenly revealed a strange creature, the Creeper himself. He climbed onto the truck and started flapping his wings like a bird from hell. The young men froze in place until the Creeper decided to climb down from the truck and stand before them. They started running, but the Creeper looked at them, extended his hand, and suddenly pulled out a long spear, like an advanced hunting gun. And the first shot pierced through two of them at once. Both fell to the ground like uprooted trees, and the Creeper stood there with a devilish smile. One of the young men who had been running was still breathing. He was groaning and trying to crawl away. The Creeper, as if he wasn't in a hurry, he walked up to their corpses like a hunter, ensuring his prey was finished. He extended his hand and retrieved one of his friends who was still alive, said to him in a trembling voice, "Why? Why are you doing this to us?" The Creeper, as if he didn't hear him, looked at him with a devilish smile. A tragic ending. The young man's last breath. And the Creeper was just beginning his game. He stood in the middle of the forest and began sniffing, like a police dog. That smell came from their friend who decided to save himself and run from the beginning. That guy thought he was far from trouble, but he forgot something important. The Creeper smells your fear. With utmost steadiness and calmness, the Creeper went to him, and he sliced the fourth guy. All those young men are gone, and no one ever heard of them again. And the secret behind the Creeper began to unfold. Every 23 years, this monster wakes from his slumber and spends 23 days searching for food. He loves humans, not just eating and drinking, but he watches, hunts, and finishes off his victims in the most horrifying ways. Hours later, the police arrived at the scene. They stood in front of the truck that looked like a moving horror house. One of the officers decided to open the back door, and with the first movement, the smell hit them all in the face. The corpses hanging from the ceiling, piled on the floor, and some rotting as if they'd been there for years. A sight that made them all step back 2 steps. But one of the officers was reckless. He said, "We won't leave the bodies here." He reached out to pull one of the bodies, and suddenly a trap snapped onto his hand with incredible speed. The officer let out a scream that shook the entire forest. His hand was severed at the elbow. The sheriff said, "No one touches anything." They all stood looking at each other, traps everywhere, bodies and schemes, as if the Creeper isn't just a monster. He's a genius killer. The special team formed by Sheriff David, led by Captain Dan, is trying to face the Creeper with all their courage. Captain Dan was talking to Sheriff David about the disaster called the Creeper. David told him, "Look, Dan, this thing killed 3 officers and it's not far-fetched to think it'll finish us off too. This monster isn't just strong, it's planning like it's got an army." Dan replied, keeping his composure. "So anyone who gets close to its truck will get shredded?" While the team was trying to open the truck's door, chaos erupted. A rope flew out of the truck like an attacking snake, and the knife at its end struck one of the officers. Dan looked at the scene and said, "Guys, this isn't a truck, it's a death machine." All the officers stepped back, no one wanting to get closer. David decided to talk to Dan privately and told him, "If the Creeper finds out we got near its truck, it'll start hunting us one by one. This monster doesn't let anyone touch its belongings." One of the officers came and said, "We brought a tow truck and dragged the truck away." Dan exploded in anger and said, So you decided to kill the people who were safe? The creeper won't let the tow truck driver live. Meanwhile, Frank, the tow truck driver, was pulling the truck away. Frank was driving calmly, and suddenly, the creeper appeared in front of him, holding a large axe. The man tried to brake, but the creeper jumped onto the truck, breaking the chains that were holding it. The truck rolled back on its own. Dan and the officers arrived just as the creeper stood atop the truck. The creeper looked down at them from the truck, descending with its wings like the bird of death. The officers tried to shoot, but the bullets seemed to bounce off him. One of the officers tried to run toward him, and the creeper's swing of his axe sent him flying through the air before landing lifeless. Dan said, "The only solution is to take this monster down without getting near its truck." Frank and Diana were still standing, trying to collect themselves after the last encounter. The truck started moving ahead of them on its own. No driver, no engine sound, just a living metallic beast. Frank said, "This isn't a truck, it's a moving devil," Diana replied, "or maybe worse." The truck backed up and stopped at a distance from them, but the creeper was nowhere to be seen. Frank was sweating, and Diana gripped her gun, waiting for the nightmare to unfold. Suddenly, the creeper leapt from the sky, landing on Frank like lightning. Diana tried to steady herself and raised her gun at the creeper, but the monster looked at her with a smirk. The creeper lifted his hand, with one gesture signaling, "I won't do anything." Diana froze in place. The monster wasted no time, picked up Frank and flew off into the air. Moments later, Dan and David arrived at the scene. As soon as they entered the truck, they found Diana sitting in the chair like a child hiding from a monster. Dan said, "What happened?" Diana replied in a choked voice, He took Frank and flew away." The next morning, the world was unusually quiet. A crow stood at the door of an old house. The elderly woman, Jilan, stepped out of the house looking around the place. The atmosphere was calm, but something was wrong, as if nature itself was watching a horror movie. Jilan looked at the tree in front of her house and saw someone waving at her from afar. "Who is that?" She couldn't make out his figure from the distance, but her eyes filled with sorrow. "There's a secret behind this man, and we'll discover it soon." 23 years ago, Kenny, a brave young man, was in the wrong place at the right time. He saw the creeper kidnapping a man from the forest right in front of his eyes. Kenny got out of his car and ran to the scene to save the man, but instead of finding the victim, he found a severed hand that fell from the sky onto the ground. Kenny froze as he stared at the hand before him. Not just an ordinary hand, it was the creeper's own hand. The hand was moving as if it was still alive, writhing as if searching for something. Kenny cautiously picked it up and decided to take it home. He said, "I won't leave it here. I don't know what this is, but it looks purely evil." Kenny went and buried the hand under a tree in front of his house, as if trying to rid the town of the curse that had fallen upon it. Today, 23 years later, the creeper is back, searching for what belongs to him. That hand was part of him, and he wants it back at any cost. Kenny's spirit appeared to his mother, Jilan, and told her, "Listen to me. You need to run away from here with Addison. The creeper won't spare you if he finds you." Jilan was sitting in front of the tree where the creeper's secret was buried, her eyes filled with sorrow, and tears slowly falling. She knew what was coming was bigger than her and her son, but there was no other solution. Addison, Jilan's granddaughter, was trying to buy feed for her horse. She went into the grocery store, but the shopkeeper told her, "Young lady, you owe a lot of money from last time. I can't give you anything today." Addison was frustrated and left the store feeling upset. But then, Buddy, the shopkeeper's son, decided to step in. Buddy had admired Addison for a long time and decided to help her without asking his father's permission. "Don't worry, Addison. I'll get you the feed you need." He said it with a smile, but it was clear he was stepping into something bigger than himself. Addison blushed slightly and replied, "Thank you, but I'll pay you back soon." Buddy responded confidently, "Don't think about repaying me. Think about what might happen to the horse if it stays without food." The atmosphere calmed a bit, and the girl took the feed, and they started heading to the stable. On the way, they passed by a field where some horses were running right and left as if someone was chasing them. Buddy stopped and said, "Something's wrong. Horses don't run like this for no reason." The owner of the field stood nervously, and his workers were hiding under an old tank, as if they were avoiding something incomprehensible. Buddy approached him and asked, "What's wrong? What's happening here?" The man replied in a trembling voice, "There's something here. You need to call the police immediately." Buddy went to his car to call the police. He searched for his phone, and suddenly, blood splattered on the windshield. A wounded and battered human stood in front of the car, breathing heavily. Buddy and Edison screamed, and before they could react, the creeper appeared. The creeper descended calmly. He looked around the place and headed toward the tank where the workers were hiding. One of the workers tried to escape, but the creeper caught him and lifted his body into the air as if it were a leaf. The sound of the tank overturning could be heard from afar. Buddy said, "We need to escape now. What's happening here isn't natural." Buddy rushed back to the car and said, "Get in, Edison, we're leaving." Edison got in, and Buddy tried to start the car, but the car wouldn't start. Buddy looked at Edison and said, "I suspect this car has fallen under the creeper's gaze. We're in trouble." Suddenly, the creeper appeared in front of the car, standing as if preparing for his special ritual. He closed his eyes and began sniffing the air around the car, but it was evident that the creeper was more focused on Edison. The creeper flew toward Edison and stood by her window, extending his finger to wipe the blood off the glass. He stared at her intently, began sniffing her, and suddenly, the creeper laughed loudly. With one leap, the creeper shattered the window completely, extended his massive hand, and pulled Edison out of the car like a small toy. Buddy tried to act, shouting, but he couldn't move an inch. Before he could even step out of the car, the creeper flew into the sky, carrying Edison. When the creeper reached his phantom car, he didn't kill Edison. He opened the back door of the car and tossed Edison inside. The place was dark, and the smell of death filled the air. Edison tried to comprehend what was happening, but suddenly she saw someone standing in the corner. Kirk? It was the boy who had been injured earlier, and he was still alive. Kirk looked at her and said, "Edison, how did you get here?" She replied, "The creeper took me, and you?" Kirk responded, "From the start, I knew that no one here would escape easily, but maybe together we can find a way out." Kirk told her, "The back door is booby-trapped. If we try to exit through it, we'll die. The only solution is the front door." Edison looked at him and said, "And what's stopping us from leaving now?" Kirk replied, "The creeper is watching. We'll need to move the moment he leaves the car." Kirk decided to move toward the front door of the car, thinking it was the only way out. As soon as he touched the handle, everything turned upside down. A spear flew from beside the door, piercing his head like an arrow. Kirk fell to the ground. Edison froze, unable to breathe. The moment felt like a direct shot to the terror inside her heart. Far from the car, Jillian, the mother whose life had been turned upside down by the creeper, was trying to understand what had happened to her son Kenny 23 years ago. Jillian decided to unearth the buried hand Kenny had hidden back then. She retrieved it, knowing that what's coming is a greater danger than what's past. She placed the hand on the table before her. The hand was still moving, as if alive. Jillian tried to reach out and touch it, but suddenly the hand latched onto her arm, lifting her into the air like a toy. Jillian's body began twisting in a horrifying manner, and her eyes turned completely white. The moment was filled with muffled screams and boiling blood. Elsewhere, Dan and his team were preparing for the biggest showdown of their lives. Michael arrived in his fully equipped car, carrying a massive gun. Michael looked at the team and said, "These aren't ordinary weapons. They're made for a monster like the creeper." Sheriff David replied, "It doesn't matter what we have. What matters is that it ends today." The entire team gathered and began their mission to hunt the creeper. Shortly after, Jillian began to recover from the nightmare that had happened to her. Her body was exhausted, but she felt something had changed. She started hearing a voice in her head telling her, "The creeper wants you. The only solution is confrontation." When Jillian touched the creeper's hand, everything changed. Suddenly, it was as if she saw his life story, which resembled nightmares. The creeper is a mix of evil, fear, and revenge. When Jillian regained her consciousness, David and Dan were standing, waiting to hear the secret from her. Jillian said, "I can't tell you." David tried to press her further. "If there's a secret that can help us stop the creeper, you must tell us." Jillian refused, but Dan had made up his mind to act on his own. Dan looked at the creeper's hand, still moving on the table. He said to David, "If Jillian won't talk, I'll find out the secret myself." David tried to stop him, saying, "Don't do it. It could destroy you." But Dan's decision was firm. As soon as he touched the creeper's hand, everything turned upside down. The hand moved quickly, wrapping around his arm like a snake, pulling him to the ground. Dan convulsed on the spot, his body twisting, and his eyes turned white. When Dan regained consciousness, he looked terrified, as if he'd seen the devil himself. David approached and asked him, "What did you see?" Dan remained silent, but he knew the creeper wouldn't spare anyone, and what lay ahead was the final confrontation. Michael, the team member always ready with heavy weapons, received news of an overturned car on Highway 9. He said, "This is the creeper's work. This is definitely a sign that he's here." Dan decided not to waste time and said to the team, "It's time to move. If we're going to stop the creeper, we need to start now." Michael was at the front in his car equipped with a machine gun, capable of firing thousands of rounds per minute. Dan and David were behind him, all ready for the big confrontation. Dan and David saw the creeper and his ghostly car driving down the highway as if taunting them. David, who was extremely angry, decided to shoot at the car's tires. He said, "If we disable it, we can stop him." But the tires were bulletproof. The bullets bounced off them and ricocheted back toward their car. David, instead of giving up, decided to shoot at the body of the car itself. But the same result. Everything about the car was armored. The bullets bounced back, hitting their car's body. The creeper opened a small window in his car and threw a bomb at their car. This wasn't an ordinary bomb. It was equipped with a tracking system. Dan, who was driving, managed to swerve the car at the last moment and evade the bomb, but it started to chase after them. David said, "This isn't just a bomb, it's following us." Dan replied, "Then we need to blow it up before it reaches us." David pulled out his pistol and fired a single shot, and the bomb exploded in the air before reaching them. Michael appeared in his car, equipped with a massive automatic gun. But Dan saw what was coming and quickly told him over the radio, "Don't shoot, Michael. That weapon will hurt us more than him." But Michael didn't listen and pressed the button, and the gun fired a barrage of bullets at the creeper's car. Just as Dan had predicted, the bullets bounced off the car. All the bullets ricocheted back toward Michael's car, hitting him and his driver. The car exploded within seconds, and Michael and his driver were killed instantly. Dan and David stared at the scene in shock. The creeper threw another bomb, but this time there wasn't enough time to escape. The bomb hit Dan and David's car, flipping it over like a tin can, but luck was on their side. Both survived the accident, though injured. As they were trying to pull themselves together, the creeper appeared in his car. He stopped in front of them, as if signaling that the battle was nearing its end. The creeper began to press harder, stopping in front of them with his car. David decided not to wait, grabbed his rifle, and stepped out of the car. Dan tried to calm things down and told him, "Don't do anything reckless. The creeper smells your fear, and if he senses you're scared, you're done for." Dan's eyes fell on Michael's car, which was wrecked beside them, but he noticed that the big gun they had relied on was still intact. He decided to run to the car to try and operate the weapon himself, knowing it was a huge risk. The creeper stepped out of his car, holding his large axe, and began walking toward David slowly, like a classic horror movie. David raised his rifle and fired the first shot, but the creeper was faster. Using his axe to deflect the bullet, David didn't give up. He fired a second shot, and this time, the bullet knocked the creeper's hat off his head. The creeper glared at David with his red eye, and he began moving faster. And David tried to fire a third shot, but the creeper used something even stranger, his teeth, which he fired like arrows. The tooth projectile entered the barrel of David's rifle and completely destroyed it. David now only had a small pistol, knowing it wasn't enough against this monster. The creeper was ready to finish him off with his large axe. Dan managed to activate Michael's massive automatic gun and began turning it toward the creeper. But luck wasn't on his side. The gun jammed. The weapon had reached its limit, making things worse. The creeper seized the moment and attacked Dan with all his might, spreading his massive black wings and flying toward the gun. Dan tried to reactivate it, but time was against him. The creeper raised his axe, ready for a blow that would end everything. Dan was still holding the automatic gun, knowing it was his last chance. The creeper was flying around the area with his giant black wings like a death eagle. He managed to activate the gun and began firing a barrage of bullets at the creeper. Bullets were flying like rain, but the creeper was as if nothing was happening. The creeper seized the moment of tension and flew at Dan like an arrow. Dan tried to turn the gun toward him, but the creeper was faster. With one swing of his axe, Dan's head flew off. David was standing far away and saw everything. He realized the creeper wouldn't stop, and that he had to escape by any means. Elsewhere, Gillen was at her house preparing for the confrontation. She picked up her shotgun and looked around. She was sure the creeper was near. Suddenly, the headlights appeared from afar. Gillen thought it was the creeper and cautiously approached the door. She opened it while holding the weapon, but standing outside was Buddy. Buddy said to her, "Addison, the creeper took her. There's no time. We have to move." At the same time, Addison was inside the truck, knowing she was prey, waiting for the moment disaster would strike. She heard the creeper's voice coming from outside. She quickly hid under a large white sack, pretending to be dead. The creeper entered. He looked around and went straight to the sack she was hiding under. Quietly, he lifted the sack and looked at her with a terrifying smile. The creeper decided to prepare her for his feast. He grabbed his large knife and began getting ready, but at the moment he turned his back to grab something from the truck, Addison jumped and hid in a dark corner. The creeper thought he had Addison secured. While in his grasp, she activated the trap button next to the passenger seat. A metal spear shot out at lightning speed, piercing the creeper's head and popping his eye out. The creeper screamed, but he was still standing. Addison took advantage of the moment, freed herself, and jumped out of the truck. She got up quickly and started running with everything she had. The creeper tried to fly after her with his giant wings, but found himself losing balance. Dan had been hiding, waiting for the right moment, and fired a single shot at the creeper's wing. The wing literally exploded, and the creeper fell to the ground like a broken monster. On the ground, the creeper grabbed his infamous arrows and decided to finish her off by any means. He threw the first arrow, but it hit a small rock near Addison. The arrow flew and passed right by her. It was very close but didn't hit her. The creeper was determined to finish her off. He grabbed the knife tied to a rope. He threw it with all his strength. The knife didn't hit her, but it struck her jacket and knocked her to the ground. Addison thought the end was near, especially when she saw the creeper coming toward her, holding his large axe. But suddenly, a large truck came from afar, speeding at full force. The truck hit the creeper, sending him flying. Addison quickly got up and decided not to look back. Running was her only option. The creeper, for the first time in his life, felt something close to weakness. The monster that always scared people and hunted them was now battered and broken. The creeper was filled with rage and decided to vent his fury on anyone. He found the truck driver who hit him, and without mercy, finished him off in moments. The creeper used the victim's body to start healing himself. The creeper decided to go to Galan's house to retrieve his severed hand. He arrived at the place and found the hand buried in the ground, along with a small handwritten note. "I know what you are, and I won't be afraid of you." The creeper, who rarely gets affected by anything, felt a surge of anger that made him scream. He grabbed his severed hand and started breaking it furiously, as if it were the cause of all his troubles. The creeper knew his time was limited. He had only 23 days before entering his 23-year-long hibernation. He decided to leave Addison for now and focus on a bigger goal, something worthy of the end of his spree. Addison, who thought she was alone, met Buddy and her grandmother, Galan. The scene was emotional, and Addison's tears flowed as she hugged Buddy. That moment felt like a small relief in the midst of a big nightmare. Buddy and Addison confessed their love for each other, as if trying to find light in the midst of darkness. But the creeper is definitely still waiting for the right moment to return for revenge. And that's the end of today's summary. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more.
Welcome to Nextflix, your quick stop for movie recaps. Get all the highlights and mind-blowing twists in just minutes. This is Kelvin, a 13-year-old boy who loves basketball and enjoys playing it with his friends at the orphanage. One of his friends, named Ox, is the owner of the basketball. Ox, a bully, constantly tells Kelvin he shouldn't play because he's a failure. Ox challenges him to a basketball match, saying, "If I win, I'll take the shirt you're wearing." Kelvin's friends advise him not to play, but Kelvin decides to play to teach Ox a lesson. However, due to Kelvin's short stature, he struggles to beat Ox, who ends up taking his shirt and tearing it in a mocking manner. The orphanage director assigns the kids the task of selling sweets every day to encourage self-reliance. Kelvin and his friend Marv head to a basketball stadium to sell sweets to the crowd, but no one buys anything from them. They end up watching a game featuring Kelvin's favorite team. After the game, Kelvin approaches the team's coach and tells him they lost because he didn't let a player named Tracy play. Tracy happens to be Kelvin's favorite player. Kelvin tries to sell sweets to the coach, explaining that the orphanage might close due to a lack of funding. The coach sympathizes and gives him $20. Kelvin is happy, but then expresses concern that the orphanage director might pocket the money instead of using it for the kids. The coach appreciates Kelvin's honesty and gives him tickets to the next game, making Kelvin overjoyed. The next day, families visit the orphanage to adopt children. The kids dress in their best clothes, hoping to be chosen. Ox discourages them, saying no one adopts older kids. Kelvin is saddened because he wishes to be adopted. Later, a nun brings used clothes for the children, and Kelvin finds a pair of sneakers among them. The nun mentions they belong to a famous basketball player, though she doesn't know his name. Kelvin notices the initials MJ on the sneakers, realizing they might belong to Michael Jordan. Enthralled, he tells his friends about the sneakers. Ox tries to take the sneakers from Kelvin and throws them onto an electrical wire. On a rainy night, Kelvin decides to retrieve them. When he grabs the sneakers, a lightning bolt strikes, marking the beginning of his transformation. The next day, Kelvin and his friends head to the stadium to use the tickets. Ox tags along, threatening to tell the orphanage director about their outing. During halftime, the team announces they will pick a random audience member to play against Tracy. Coincidentally, Kelvin is chosen. Ox tries to take Kelvin's ticket, but Kelvin escapes and heads to the court. Tracy laughs at the idea of playing against a child, but Kelvin is thrilled to face his idol. Tracy underestimates Kelvin, who surprises everyone with his extraordinary skills, scoring incredible points. The audience and Tracy's team are amazed and cheer for Kelvin. The next day, the team's coach and manager visit the orphanage to recruit Kelvin. Initially, the orphanage director refuses, but he changes his mind after being offered money. Kelvin is overjoyed, and his friends are amazed by his performance against Tracy. Kelvin confides in them that the sneakers might be the source of his newfound abilities, and asks them to keep it a secret. Ox overhears this conversation. Kelvin begins training with the team and meets Tracy again. Tracy downplays Kelvin's victory, claiming he let him win, though his teammates tease him for losing. The team manager gives Kelvin an official team uniform and new sneakers, but Kelvin is worried because wearing the new sneakers might cause him to lose his powers. During his first game to lose his powers. During his first game with the team, Kelvin is nervous and struggles without his magical sneakers. He pretends to need a bathroom break, retrieves his old sneakers, and returns to the game. Once he puts them on, his skills astonish everyone again. The player scores again. Despite everyone's astonishment and shock at his incredible skill, he manages to surpass the players and score again. Everyone is amazed and shocked that he is just a small child. Kelvin's team wins, and the news starts talking about the miracle child who caused a sensation because he is a skilled and professional basketball player, all while being a small, short child. He signs a 1-year contract with the team. There are many greedy people around. The biggest of them warns Kelvin not to meet any family offering adoption, because they would obviously be after his money. Kelvin travels with the team, and on the plane, the coach says that he and Tracy will share the same room. Tracy is very annoyed and frustrated because of what happened to him, and he hates the kid. Kelvin, on the other hand, is very happy because Tracy is his favorite player. When they arrive at the hotel, Kelvin is amazed by the place and can't believe his eyes. At night, Tracy says he's going out to meet his girlfriend. Kelvin dresses up and says he wants to join him, but Tracy tells him, "You're still a kid. Stay in the room until I get back." He also tells him to order whatever food or sweets he wants from room service. The boy eagerly does so and orders a lot. When Tracy returns with his girlfriend, he finds the boy asleep in a pile of food, completely unaware of his surroundings. They wake him up, and Tracy scolds him. The girl defends the boy, saying he was just sleeping and to leave him alone. She treats Kelvin very kindly, which of course annoys Tracy, because she's spending time with the boy instead of him. The next morning, the boy, not understanding what he's doing, tattles on Tracy, saying he was out with his girlfriend last night, and that she was very kind and caring. The coach scolds Tracy, reminding him of the no late night rule, and warns him that if he stays out late again, he won't be allowed to play. Tracy angrily tells Kelvin never to talk about him again. They play several games, and in each one, Kelvin leaves his mark, astonishing the fans and everyone with his performance. He is a major reason for the team's victories in every game. No one can stop the miracle child, who outshines all the teams with his incredible speed and amazing dribbles. He starts gaining fame, wealth, and glory. Being generous by nature, he buys some gifts and visits the orphanage to give them to the less fortunate kids. Everyone loves Kelvin, even his rivals. After an incredible performance, he wins the award for the best player in the tournament. When the tournament ends, he returns to the orphanage and tells his friend about everything that happened, saying it was all like a dream to him. The bully tries to forcefully steal his shoes. The head of the orphanage intervenes upon hearing the boy's screams and warns the bully to stay away. Kelvin hides in Tracy's car and surprises him by saying, "I'm here." Tracy gets upset and asks what he's doing there. They stop at a pharmacy to buy allergy medicine and sleeping pills so Tracy can sleep early and avoid trouble with the coach. The pharmacist's beauty distracts Tracy, and he accidentally takes sleeping pills instead of allergy medicine. He falls asleep in the car, and they are supposed to reach the hotel by midnight to avoid the coach's scolding. Kelvin tries to wake him up but fails, so he drives the car himself and, of course, causes chaos. In the end, they reach the hotel. The next day, Tracy finds out that Kelvin is being punished and won't play the game because he returned late and wrecked the car. Kelvin doesn't reveal that Tracy was involved to avoid making things worse. Tracy sarcastically thanks him for his actions. Kelvin then tells Stan that he wishes someone would adopt him, but Stan, who benefits financially, tells him that anyone who adopts him would only be after his money. Kelvin insists that he wants a family to adopt him. Stan arranges meetings with families he deems greedy, hoping Kelvin will lose interest. This works, as Kelvin begins to believe that everyone is only interested in his money and not in adopting him for who he is. Feeling upset, Kelvin packs his bag and goes to Tracy's house. He tells Tracy that his dream was to be adopted. Tracy shares his own story, saying his mother passed away and that he has been estranged from his father ever since due to family issues. Tracy tries to cheer Kelvin up. Kelvin contacts Tracy's father to surprise him and help reconcile them. However, Tracy gets very angry and tells Kelvin to stay out of his personal matters. This tension affects their performance in an important game, which they lose. The coach tells them their only chance is the next game. Losing it would mean elimination. Stan learns the secret behind Kelvin's skills, his special shoes. A wealthy family expresses interest in adopting Kelvin, and Stan encourages him to stay with them. Stan gives him a new pair of shoes to wear with the family, hiding the special ones. Then, Stan goes to a betting venue and wagers a large amount of money that Kelvin's team will lose the next game since he knows Kelvin won't have his special shoes. Kelvin finds the wealthy family boring and strange. Meanwhile, Tracy reconciles with his father, thanks to Kelvin's efforts. Tracy thanks Kelvin for bringing him and his father back together. Kelvin introduces Tracy to his new family, but isn't happy with them. Tracy gets a call from Murphy, who informs him that Stan stole Kelvin's shoes. They all team up to retrieve the shoes. They tie him up and leave him on the chair. They threaten him, saying that if he doesn't confess where the coach is, they'll beat him up. But he insists that he won't tell them where he is. Ox and the rotten crew with him come to free the man. However, Kelvin talks to him and says that this is in their best interest, and that winning this will lead to families coming to take them in. Ox is convinced, laughs his annoying laugh as usual, and hands over the coach to them. Kelvin quickly takes the coach and runs to catch the match, but he manages to free himself and calls people to stop Kelvin from reaching the match. But they fail to stop him, and he manages to get to the game. The moment he arrives, the crowd is cheering for him, waiting for him to step in because the team is losing. As soon as Kelvin joins, he completely turns the game around. He keeps outsmarting the opposing team and scores a lot of points. Unfortunately, the shoes gets toured and tells Tracy the secret behind Kelvin's skill, saying that it's the shoes who made him this way. Tracy responds, "No, the shoes isn't the reason. You're talented and special, and if we work together, we'll win because we're one team." Kelvin keeps playing normally, showcasing his skills. In the end, he even becomes the reason his team wins, scoring the final shot. Afterward, he goes to thank the coach and tells him he won't renew the contract because he doesn't deserve to be on this team. He packs his bag and returns to the orphanage, but the surprise is that Tracy comes to him, saying he's amazing and offers to adopt him. Kelvin is thrilled. Being kind and compassionate, Kelvin asks Tracy to adopt his friend too. Tracy agrees and adopts both of them, and that's how our movie ends. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything new.